Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel and Kim, sponsored by DownloadTennis.com. On today's Tour Catch-Up,
Maxime Cressy serve and volleys his way to the Newport title.
Serena Williams announces plans to play Toronto.
And the ATP Tour starts trialling off-court coaching.
Kim, today is the 18th of July and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. Wimbledon is now over. We are back on the circuit on the ATP and WTA tours. And of course, there is a heat wave going on at the moment in London, and we are already sort of talking about what our strategies are to stay cool whilst recording, because it is feeling very, very tropical at the moment.
It is. I mean, I've gone for a hot fresh mint tea because I was reading that doesn't necessarily make you any hotter. In fact, it could cool you down. So I'm kind of sticking with my usual thing for when we record, which is to have a nice cup of tea. I don't know about you. That's just what I'm doing.
I have literally got my bedside fan and just put it on the table, and it's just inevitably just blowing warm air towards me. That is literally the best I can do, and it's not helped by the fact that I'm recording from like an attic room, so there's a lot of trapped hot air as well. So it's all a bit of a nightmare from my book. I'm actually debating going into work tomorrow for the aircon. I don't know if any of our listeners are in this sort of quandary at the moment, but I'm genuinely considering going into work just for the aircon.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really designed in our houses for this conditions, you know. So I think anything you can do. I mean, I'm a big fan of the cold flannel or t-shirt around the back of the neck, which I will be doing tonight as I try and get. You
need to get the ice, like the tennis players on the changeover. Yeah. Get the ice cubes
in the towel,
yeah. And then put some like rope or string around each end, and yeah. It's giving me. You remember when we were at the Australian Open those few years ago, and I remember watching Kyle Edmund out on one of the outside courts in like, it was very much pushing the limit they could play, I think, and I just remember it being so hot, and these conditions are just reminding me of the pain I was sort of going through watching Kyle Edmund, hoping he was getting through, but also battling with the weather at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough enough sitting there being a fan, but I can't imagine playing in this. I mean, you have a newfound respect for anyone doing professional sport in this. But yeah, I know we have some lovely listeners in Australia and other hot places. So any tips welcome for helping us both.
Maybe we're just coming across as really whiny, and probably. everyone's just being like, just shut up and get on with the tennis.
Yeah, I mean, okay, fine, we will. We've had tennis.
Right, we've had our hot weather moan over, but yeah. Let's look at the tennis.
We're not British if we don't talk about the weather before we do anything else. So, right, tennis it is. Tennis Weekly, we are. Let's start in Newport, Joel, because we had the Newport Hall of Fame Open out in Newport, Rhode Island. Very nice little place in the world, I have to say. And this was won by an American home player. Third time lucky for Maxime Cressy, actually. He won his first title on his third attempt in a final, beating Alexander Bublik in the final last set tiebreak. Classic. And actually got off to a terrible start. He barely got a game on board in the first 11 games, lost 9 of them, but certainly came back and it went down to the wire and he was able to get the job done in that last set tiebreak. So well done, Maxime Cressy.
Yeah, he was, I think, 6-2, 3-love down. Bublik was in the ascendancy. His serve, which is obviously a bedrock of his game. We know Cressy for his serve and volley old school tactics, but I think he got broken in his first service game, and that was really one of the key reasons he got to the final. He had a very good win against John Isner in the semi-final, and his first serve in particular was a reason for that. And in the final, it just was not firing. In that first set, and Bublik was playing some very smart tennis. And you just thought that this was going to be Bublik straight sets. He's been playing well this season, and I thought he was going to go on to win it. But it was one of those big momentum shifts where we saw Bublik's game slightly drop, and Cressy managed to find, his free-flowing game. And, it really kind of turned in that second set, and Cressy eventually was able to get it done in that third set tiebreak. And I know Bublik was a bit kind of disappointed, perhaps frustrated with himself in the ceremony afterwards, because I think he said Cressy was lucky, and it was all luck that had to do with Cressy's performance. But I think that was a bit harsh. But I think Cressy was able to find his game at the right moment, and I think it's great because he's got such a unique and distinctive game, hasn't he, Kim? Serve and volley, and we don't normally see very many serve and volley players go on and actually win on the tour.
Yeah, he's a very entertaining player to watch, partly because his style is quite unique and original in this sort of era that we're in. I think, it was a classic combination of him just sort of remaining pretty calm and just upping his game, and Bublik like dropping his level. So I think that's a bit harsh of Bublik to say, it was all luck, because you do partly make your own luck. You've got to...
I mean, it doesn't surprise me he said
no.
that. It was kind of weird, actually, because I think, I've seen clips of Bublik. He's another, entertaining character, and he's actually been, I think, times I've seen him, for example, he played Murray earlier on in the season and lost to him. He did defeat Murray in this tournament, but I remember him being quite graceful in defeat, so I was a little bit surprised. He came across as a bit of a sore loser, I thought, in the ceremony afterwards.
Yeah, and sore losers, that's not a good look, is it? A sore loser. But
no.
Cressy was certainly joyful winner. He's achieved like one of the ththings that he was really aiming for, which is essentially like to be seeded at the US Open. He said that he'd love to be in that position, and he basically, I think it's pretty certain that he will be. So that's fantastic for him, and for American tennis fans, he'll be seeded at his home slam. I think he's going to be up to 33 in the rankings now that players can win ranking points again. Joel, how exciting! And this is an interesting stat. Nobody in the top 50 has climbed up in the rankings more than Maxime Cressy so far this year. So well done him.
What I love about that, Kim, is, do you remember at Wimbledon, he had that match and he was just shouting out, "I hate tennis. I'm going to retire from tennis." And lo and behold, like a few weeks later, he's gone on and won his first tour title.
Yeah.
So
thank God he didn't give up.
Thank God he didn't retire. No, it just shows, I think, how things can turn on the tour. And Cressy's game, it is very well suited to the grass courts, and I do love this event. It is such an odd event in the sense that Wimbledon has happened, and you think that's it for grass court tennis. Oh no, actually, there's one more grass court event afterwards. I'd quite like to see, though, just one more British grass court event, I feel, after Wimbledon. If we're going to have this one in the United States, I feel like we could have one extra 250 maybe in the UK. But it's such a unique style event. It obviously attracts all the big servers, and Maxime Cressy came out on top.
Yeah, actually, it would be cool to have one in the UK after Wimbledon, because people who kind of get into Wimbledon, they might then be able to go and see some live tennis. I guess kind of jumping on that bandwagon.
What do you make of these events that are after the main event? Do you think they're a bit pointless, or do you think like there is merit for them? I understand that the Hall of Fame Open in Newport, it's a little bit different because there is that side of it going on. Leighton Hewitt, for example, was, I think, inducted into the Hall of Fame this week, so there is kind of a reason, I guess, for it. But do you have any views on kind of these small 250s events that immediately come after the Grand Slam on the same surface? Is it a bit weird, or do you think they certainly have a role on the tour?
I mean, with this one being grass, you couldn't have it before Wimbledon because that would just disturb everyone's schedule, like being, in the States, different continent. So I understand why it's after, and I think obviously it's such a historic venue, and people are going over to to North America anyway for the start of the US swing. So they're kind of like, I'll just play one more week on grass. Although, you might have been knocked early out of Wimbledon, and then you've kind of could switch to hard courts and try and practice more. I guess it depends. I think if you're a grass court specialist, like some players, and you love your grass courts, then this is
you want to make the most.
This is almost one of those grass court tournaments you really would like to win, maybe at some point, because it is such a old, like, historic club venue. It's like really small, very intimate, and obviously for a lot of American players, it's one of their home tournaments. So
they do need to sort their TV cameras out, though. Watching it on the television, it was very hard to do. I felt their camera was like miles and miles up in the sky. Very hard to trace the ball as well. So yeah, it was. It is a nice tournament. It's got a really nice setup. But yeah, it was a little bit hard, I think, tracking the ball on the TV. And Kim, I enjoyed you said it would affect the schedule of the players, and it would not be ideal for it to go from New York to Wimbledon in the UK. Well, Alexander Bublik went from Wimbledon to the USA to play Newport, and then he's going back to Europe to play Hamburg. So figure that one out in terms of scheduling.
He must love a long haul flight. That's all we can say.
He wants the air miles. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking about Wimbledon players, that did well at Wimbledon. We had Tim van Rijthoven losing in the first round. I mean, what was all that about? What's going on, Tim? Lost to Mitchell Kruger in 3 sets. So I was a bit disappointed about that.
His 15 minutes of fame is over, Kim. His career has peaked with that 1 set off Novak Djokovic on centre court.
I hope not. But Jason Kubler did well getting to the semi-finals, and he did well at Wimbledon. And Max Purcell, obviously lost to Andy Murray, but I remember when he took the first set off Andy, and you were like, "What is Max Purcell doing?" And I was like, "Well, he is a Wimbledon champion. Like, he won the doubles."
Wimbledon doubles champion, Kim. I was nervous. I was scared. And I think for Murray it was it was a decent showing. He got to the quarterfinals. He managed to put 2 consecutive wins together in a main draw. I feel like earlier on in the season it was like have 1 win, have 1 loss, move on to the next tournament. So it was nice to see him get two wins. It was interesting, I think, against Purcell, because ultimately he did kind of come through that convincingly in the end. He won 4-6, 6-2, 6-1, but I felt like that was an opponent where he maybe hadn't really had a lot of practice time against, game time against, and he needed a little bit of that time to kind of figure out just what the Purcell game was about. And I think given he was full of confidence, given he won the men's doubles, the men's doubles at Wimbledon the week before, he was obviously in a confident mood. But Murray was able to get it done. Lost against Bublik in the quarterfinals, but the fact that Bublik got through all the way through to the final and arguably should have won it, I think, again, more encouraging signs for Murray. And similar to Cressy, he's got an ambition to be seeded for the US Open, and hopefully he can do something that Cressy achieved this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also had completely different kettle of fish, Joel, going to the clay of Europe rather than the grass of North America at the Bastad event out in Sweden, which friend of the podcast, sometimes co-host Chris was at. So I think we'll be hearing a little bit from his time at the tournament later on. But Chris was at the final. We had Cerundolo. Again, well, I should say which Cerundolo, wasn't it? Francisco Cerundolo.
What has happened to Juan Manuel?
Oh, I hope he's okay. But yeah, his brother's getting all the attention at the moment.
He is, isn't he?
Took a set off Rafa at Wimbledon. I was at that match. Francisco Cerundolo against Sebastian Baez in the final. So 2 classic clay quarters, really, both Argentinian. And yeah, it was straight set 7-6, 6-2 to Cerundolo. They're both having pretty good seasons, really, and obviously both getting through to the final. Very good showings from both. But I think really the forehand of Cerundolo kind of came out on top of this one. It was good hitting from both of them, but his fortitude under pressure and I think saving all those break points as well on his own serve was the key to him coming through in 2 sets in this match.
Yeah, it really was all on that first set. I think it was set like 75 minutes. It was like no surprise to me. 2 Argentinians, clay court in a final. They were really going toe to toe each other. And I think who was going to win that first set was ultimately going to have that momentum that was just going to kind of carry them through to the title. So I do think that first set was really, really pivotal to the outcome. And for Cerundolo, as you said, I think he played the big points well, and he was just very, very threatening with his forehand in particular from the back of the court. I think this is a player who has come on leaps and bounds. They both have. I think last year this time they were both in challenge on the challenger circuit, reaching challenger finals. So I think it's great to see players go on that transition, and it shows that I think players can make a name for themselves on the ATP Tour, having plied their trades and come up through the ranks on the challenger circuit. So it's great to see, I think, 2 finalists from that perspective. But for Cerundolo, really, really, really great. And I think both players will have been playing with so much confidence, given how their seasons have gone. and the fact that they are also, I think, knocking on the door, both of them on the the top 30 in the rankings. But Cerundolo was just that little bit much better on the day, and I think he also made the most of the Sebi Baez second serve as well in that second set. I think Baez, we all know his kind of comparisons to Diego Schwartzman. I feel like they're getting stronger and stronger by the day, Kim, but I do think his serve is a little bit there for the taking to start off on the right foot on his return games.
Definitely something to improve on. And I mean, another thing from this match, which we were talking about before we started recording, was that match point. So very slight amount of controversy on the match point. I don't know if any of our listeners will have had the chance to see it, or if you haven't, maybe just kind of Google it now and have a look. But Cerundolo appeared to obviously celebrate perhaps slightly earlier than he should have done, because although Baez's ball was going out, the ball hadn't landed, and Cerundolo sort of was falling to the floor, dropped his racket, ball touched racket prior to bouncing on the floor, which kind of meant, I guess, they should have played a let, but they then didn't. So Cerundolo did win. But I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that you'd have to really watch it, I guess, to probably see what I'm blathering on about.
I mean, I watched it, and Chris was there for the final and saw it. He was right behind where it took place, and watching the replays of it, it should have been point to Baez, based on what I've been told in tennis, kind of growing up playing as a junior. I don't think it would have made a difference to the outcome of the match, but I would have thought the umpire, given it's his responsibility to watch the match, that would have been able to kind of clock this happening. I get that it's a completely freak thing, and I've never seen anything like this happen before, but it was just all very bizarre. And I think, Kim, it just tells you, never celebrate too early, because you never know what's going to happen.
I mean, it would have been embarrassing if they had have made them replay that point and then it had all gone pear-shaped for Cerundolo. Fortunately, it didn't. And
it would have been funny if they had the ceremony and then some guy came out and said, well, actually, you got to go back and replay that point. Everyone get off the court, because it was actually technically Baez's point and not Cerundolo's.
Yeah, really bad VAR kind of belated decision. But yeah, well done, Cerundolo. I mean, he came through like some decent players. I mean, Pablo Carreno Busta, bit of PCB, who had thrashed Diego Schwartzman. Cerundolo, dispatched him pretty comfortably. And
what was that about? PCB won and love over Diego Schwartzman. That is on a clay court. That was a result I definitely wasn't expecting.
Yeah, and then you thought PCB, maybe this is his tournament to lose, but obviously not. And Cerundolo getting the win over top seed in Casper Ruud in the second round, I should say. Casper Ruud's not having the greatest time after his French Open final, is he? But we've seen this sort of thing happen before. Players have a bit of a peak and then a bit of a trough afterwards. Dip. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Tsitsipas with the French Open last year, when he obviously got to the final against Djokovic, lost from 2 sets up, and then I think had a slight kind of confidence dip there, and you could tell in his performances. And with Casper Ruud, I think there are inevitably always going to be kind of parallels and similarities made, and it was surprising, I think, to see him come into a tournament he's played well at before, top seed. I get that Cerundolo, that's quite a tough, unseeded player in the second round. He's as I said, he's one of the players who's one of the most in form this, over the course of this season. But for Casper Ruud, that will be a bit of a disappointment, given he was a top seed, given this was a 250. Given all the talk about how we say that the ATP 250 clay events are really his home, yes, sort of disappointing. But I mean, it was quite a tight match. I mean, he lost 7-5 in the third set, so he's playing well. But it's interesting to see that sort of going back from that high of a Grand Slam final back onto the tour. It's not necessarily easier said than done, is it?
Yeah, it's so much about, I guess, momentum as well. And, you can easily get into a bad run of form, which, a certain player, Dominic Thiem, has certainly been in. But positive signs this week. He was able to get his first match win on the ATP Tour since all his, elbow surgery and coming back. And he didn't get just one win, but 2. So really good win over Emil Rusevori. Third set tiebreak. But then backing it up with another 3-setter over Roberto Bautista Agut. and then losing in a 3-set to Sebastian Baez. So I think really encouraging signs for Dominic Thiem, just getting
Exciting.
back out there, winning again. Hopefully will have done him the world of good.
And I think also having so much match time, you had three-set matches, and I think just more than anything, yes, victories mean that he kind of comes back the next day and has another match, in the event. But certainly, I think the amount of time he spent on court, the more I think it's just going to help with his kind of rehabilitation, his re-immersion, I think, back into the tour. So yeah, it's exciting to see him get to the quarterfinals in Bastad.
Absolutely. And let's move on to the WTA events from the past week, Joel, because we had Lausanne and we had the Hungarian Grand Prix. So we've had two different winners. And let's start in Lausanne, shall we? Where we had Petra Martich take home the title in straight sets over Olga Danilovic, 6-4, 6-2. Olga Danilovic having a great week as a qualifier, but falling short to Martich, who obviously is a more seasoned, experienced opponent, has been there and done that, at WTA level before, winning her second.
Although not for a long time.
Not for a long time. This is her second career title, and it's come about 1,176 days after her first WTA title. So long time coming, long time in between.
Yeah, she's she's an interesting player. She's had a very interesting career. She's very much a player who's got a lot of experience. She's reached the top 15 in terms of her rankings, but at the same time, she's only had 2 titles in her whole career, which feels a little bit shortchanged given her ranking and given some of the performances she's put in. But certainly this week, yeah, she had a very, very, very good week. She had a very, very good win against Belinda Bencic, the second seed in the quarterfinals. And then Kim, she came up against one of your faves, Caroline Garcia, in the semi-finals, came through that as well. So, she definitely beat some informed players. And, it was nice to see her, I think, capture her second trophy. Yeah, as I say, she's a funny one. I just feel like she should, at this point in her career, I feel like she should have had more titles, but she's getting back to maybe like a mini resurgence, maybe doing a little bit of a Caroline Garcia, but yeah, a good win in the final against a qualifier who again had a very good tournament.
Maybe she's having her own renaissance like Caroline Garcia, who the renaissance sort of restarted again. She won 3 matches, but it got paused in that semi-final, but I'm sure it will recommence soon. Martich, I mean, like you said, she's been top 15 before. I'm sure she's reached the odd quarter of a slam, and she reached, I believe, the 4th round at Wimbledon just a couple of weeks ago, and I think she lost to Rybakina. So obviously, technically, a great week there.
I do wonder if Martich was very kind of battle hardened, in the final. Yeah. She came through, as I said, Garcia, Bencic, and she also came through Parizas Diaz in the first round. So, you compare that to Danilovic, who didn't, I think, face a seeded player all the way through to the final. Perhaps, she was ready for the, a really tough test, and that was possibly one of the reasons why she was just able to kind of get it done quite convincingly. I mean, she hit 23 winners, only 10 unforced errors, and it felt like she really had a handle on the Danilovic serve. She broke 4 times and manufactured 10 break points. So, it was quite a comprehensive win in the end for Martich.
And we had some interesting wins for, some Swiss wildcards who obviously were in the draw home tournament, one of whom beat the top seed Danielle Collins in the first round. So it's good, good week for Simona Valter. She made it through to the quarterfinals, losing to Danilovic. But getting that sort of long win over Danielle Collins, 3rd set tiebreak. So, good for her. And then I think Susan Bandecchi also got a win before losing to countrywoman Belinda Bencic.
Kim, what I want to say, though, is what I saw in this tournament, a real rarity you feel on the circuit, is in the first round, Leolia Jean-Jean got a walkover in round 1 because Tatiana Maria, who did so well at Wimbledon, didn't turn up and they couldn't find a lucky loser. And so they just let Jean-Jean into the second round without having to step onto the court. Don't see that very often, so it was quite interesting to see that happen. Surely they could have found someone.
Well, surely there would have been like a Swiss junior lurking around, like there as
just put an announcement out to the crowd.
Yeah, I thought
take on all comers round one on the tour. I would absolutely love it.
I mean, they probably have to be registered rather than just any old person in the crowd. But I'm sure there would have been someone milling around. But I mean, probably a bit ambitious from Maria to maybe, try and play that so soon after Wimbledon. I don't know. Obviously, Wimbledon would have been a very intense experience for her. Although Yul Niemeyer was there and she got through to the quarters, I believe. So good, good for her. But yeah, I mean, we had a Serbian finalist in Lausanne. We also had a Serbian finalist in Hungary for the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest. Now, this tournament was won by Bernarda Pera, but she beat Alexandra Krunic 6-3, 6-3 in the final to win her first WTA Tour title. So big congrats to her. First time winner on the tour. We know she's been around a while, hasn't she, Bernarda Pera? And she is quite a tricky player to play against. She's had a few scalps in her time. And I kind of just assumed she'd actually already won a title, but I was obviously making an incorrect assumption. But she finally has. And, she did it pretty nicely. Didn't drop a set all week and took just over an hour and 20 minutes or so to beat Krunic in the final. And Krunic herself was having a fantastic week as well up to that point. So Pera obviously playing very well in that final.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Pera beat Joe Conter at the Australian Open a few years ago when Conter was in the top 10, and I was really impressed on that day by Pera, and particularly her serve. It's just a real kind of weapon for her, and when she gets her game together, she can be quite a handful, for her opponents. And it was great for her, I think, just to win on the WTA tour. It's not something she's ever done, but as you said, I feel like having seen her, in the past, I feel like she's a player who's has got the talent to win on the tour. So I'm glad she's almost kind of fulfilled that potential. And she was playing very, very well this week. She came up against Krunic in the final, and Krunic was just on a warpath, Kim. She won her second round 6-1, 6-love, her quarterfinal 6-love, 6-1, and then she won her semi-final against the defending champion Putintseva 6-2, 6-2. So she was in some serious form. But Pera, just a very, 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 very good player. And I'm happy for her, given, as I said, she's been around for a while, and when she's able to put it together, she can be a big kind of obstacle and challenge on the court. And ultimately, she came through and won in Hungary.
Yeah, I think ultimately on the day, Krunic too many unforced errors and not making the most of breakpoint opportunities that she had. So well done to Bernarda Pera. But let's take a quick break now. Do join us in the second half, where we'll be talking about the ATP's off-court coaching trial, Serena Williams continuing her comeback in Toronto, and all of the draws coming up on the ATP and WTA tours, including the mixed event out in Hamburg and the tour events in Palermo and Gstaad. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to Tennis Weekly with Joel and Kim, sponsored by downloadtennis.com. And let's move on to a little fun quiz segment, as usual, before we get into the detail of the second half. Now that our Wimbledon coverage is over, Joel, we are back to our regular tour catch-up, which means we do have a game. What have you got for me this week?
I have got for you and our listeners a Par for the Courts, Kim. Par for the Courts is back. And it's an interesting one. It's a WTA related Par for the Courts. Listeners, if you've not played along with Par for the Courts before, basically I'm going to give Kim a topic, and from that topic she's going to give me as many right answers as possible, and I'm going to set a par score for her to achieve without giving me a wrong answer. Now, Kim, are you ready for your topic?
I am absolutely ready. I'm very sweaty, but I'm ready.
Are you feeling the pressure already of the topic I'm going to give you?
Well, this tea that I've been drinking definitely hasn't cooled me down. But yeah, I'm sweating with the pressure now as well. So let's get on it.
I don't know. I could maybe relieve the pressure by giving you a life, but I feel like I've done that in the past, and you've not actually needed it.
Okay. Yeah. No. I'm willing to accept the challenge. So let's go without.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you no lives, and I'm going to see how you get on. Okay. So the topic I've got for you is the 2018 WTA Tour end of season finals. These were the finals, the last one in Singapore. And I would like you to name me the top 8 players that played in that event. So the 8 seeds, as you will, that played in the 2018 WTA Tour end of season finals, the last one in Singapore. And now the reason I chose this one, Kim, because it's quite noteworthy, because the top 4 seeds all went out in the round robin stage, and actually number 5, 6, 7 and 8 all got through to the semi-finals. So
I thought you were going to start singing a step song then, Joel. 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't you think the listeners want to hear that?
No, I don't think they do. And I'm going to set the pass score at, I think there's a lot of minefields here, but I'm going to set the pass score at 50%, 4 out of 8.
This is tricky. Do you know what? I remember actually roughly where I was when this event was going on, and that is by a pool in Bali, which sounds incredibly pretentious, but I remember it was that year, and I was like checking the scores by this like nice pool. Right, 2018. Okay. Right, I've got a player. Sure, this is correct. Caroline Wozniacki.
Correct. Yes, she was seeded second in the tournament, and as I said, she went out in the round robin stage.
Because
that's one.
She won the AO that
down.
year. Simona Halep. She must have been there, unless she was injured.
Simona Halep.
Yeah. Long pause. Does that mean it's a no?
Do you know? It's incorrect, but I'm not. It's not I'm actually going to give you another life here, because she did qualify, but she withdrew due to a back injury.
Okay, right.
So I'm going to give you. That's like your. That is like that's your life.
Okay,
that
fair enough. I think that's fair. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I don't know if Ash Barty would have been. I don't think Ash Barty would have been doing her thing. Although, actually, no, she might have been, because she won the French Open the year after. Would she have been in the top 8 then? Ooh, no, I'm not ready to put her in yet. How about, I want to say Radvanska, but was she still playing then? Oh, no, okay. Here's another player. I think this person might have been there. Angie Kerber?
Correct. Yes. And she was the top seed, Kim.
Okay, wow.
So yeah, Kerber, Wozniacki, both correct, and they were the first and second seeds.
And I'm thinking of another player who I like and mention quite a lot, but I feel like she was there the year before, so I'm not going to say her.
Ooh, okay. I mean, you're halfway to par for the course. It's tough.
Right. Oh, I suppose the obvious. Oh, actually, is it obvious? Would she have been there? I don't think Serena would have played. Oh, I'm just going to say Serena Williams, because she might have been there, but I don't actually have much confidence in that.
Serena Williams?
It's really hard.
Incorrect, Kim. No Serena Williams. Williams.
Dear.
Yeah, that was quite tough. That was quite tough. I'm not going to lie. But your eight players. I mean, any other guesses? Who are you going to say?
Would probably have gone for Kvitova, Bencic. I was thinking of Caroline Garcia, but I think it was the year before she got to the. Oh, was Jo Konta there actually? Just had a sudden thought.
No, Jo Konta.
Okay.
Petra Kvitova was there.
Oh, okay.
So you could have said that. Naomi Osaka.
Completely forgot about her.
3. Sloane Stephens reached the final.
Oh wow.
And she lost in the final.
Svitolina.
Yes, that was the
Did
champion.
she win? Yeah, suddenly coming back to me now.
And number 7 and number 8 were Karolina Pliskova and Kiki Bertens.
Oh, okay. I would never have said her.
Who
but
reached the semi-finals. So, those were your 8. Kerber, Wozniacki, Osaka, Kvitova, Stephens, Svitolina, Pliskova, Bertens. And I know, I didn't ask this, Kim, but I'm sure our listeners, if you were have incredible knowledge, you would have known the 2 alternates for the event, and they were Kasatkina and Sevastova. So little bonus there as well. But quite a tough one. I'm not going to lie, but to be fair, I feel like you've been getting path of the courts quite frequently, quite regularly. So I'm sort of glad this has sort of put you back in your place.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I think anyone who knew Sevastopol as the alternate, like they deserve a gold medal. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, listeners. I hope you enjoyed that challenge. I know I certainly. Well, I don't know about enjoyed, but found that very tough, I have to say. So thanks, Joel. And we do have a question from the Tennis Weekly mailbag. So John got in contact with us on email. Thank you, John. John's question was, following Wimbledon's move to take Henman Hill to New York City, which city would you like them to take it next? So anyone who didn't see, there was like a Henman Hill version set up in New York, which was quite fun. We put it on our Twitter about a week ago or so. So John, thank you for your question. Oh, this is quite tough. Where would you like the hill to be taken to, Joel?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I thought about other cities, I did not think about time zones and whether it works from that perspective. I just thought about it more from like opening up tennis, and I would quite like to see Henman Hill go to South America. I think it would just be great to see Wimbledon, it all prides itself on exclusivity. It's a special event. I want them to open it up even further, and I wonder if they could take it to somewhere like Rio de Janeiro or Mexico City or Guadalajara, some place where it would just look very, very, I think, eye-catching, and I think would be very, very cool and interesting. For like New York City is very on brand for Wimbledon to take Henman Hill. So I wonder whether they could maybe push the boat out a bit further and go to a city where it feels like they're taking tennis to new audiences. And I wonder if, for me, South America could potentially be on the cards.
Yeah, have like a very tropical Henman Hill. I think that sounds good. I was thinking more of places that already had hills, which doesn't really make sense unless I'm thinking, they could make use of an existing hill.
Well, I was thinking Rio de Janeiro, the
Sugarloaf Mountain.
Yes, yes.
That would be a very steep hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was thinking Rome or Sheffield, because they're built on 7 hills, and that just I don't know. I'm thinking of hills generally, or Lisbon. I think has a few hills. That would be quite fun.
Okay.
Very nice places.
Not Croydon Town Centre.
That would significantly improve Croydon Town Centre. So yes, maybe, and that's just a tram ride away from Wimbledon, so they wouldn't have to go very far. That'd be much more environmentally friendly, wouldn't it? But no, thank you, John. Good question, listeners. Where would you take the hill to? Let us know your thoughts. And that brings us on to our news from the world of tennis. First of all, Joel, this week we've got the ATP's off-court coaching. It's started to be trialled for the second half of the season. So basically, coaching will be allowed from designated coach seats during both qualifying and main draw matches at ATP Tour events. And this started last week. It's also going to be happening at the US Open and at the ATP finals in Turin. So, what do you make of this? Obviously, it's a trial, so it may not last. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how certain players get on. Maybe certain players won't really benefit. But obviously, the women's tour are already doing it, and that's been in place for a while. But what are your initial thoughts?
It's interesting that it's only just, I think, come to the ATP Tour as a trial, given that it's been on the WTA Tour now for what feels like a while. I feel like their trial is still going on, and maybe they haven't got a decision yet, and adding the ATP Tour into the mix and having it kind of consistent across both tours means that they can make a decision further down the line that perhaps is equal across both men and women. I still kind of think that in principle the same sorts of things when I heard the trial was going to happen on the on the WTA side, in the sense that for me tennis is an individual sport, and when players step onto the court, they should not be having to get the support from their coaches in order to kind of figure out how to win a tennis match. I think the role of a coach is to get their player ready before they step on the court. I don't think that they should be able to have any sort of legal influence, during the game. Now, this has obviously caused great debate. It was interesting that Patrick Muratoglu, super coach, coach of Simona Halep, he tweeted, "Congratulations to the ATP for legalizing a practice that has been going on at almost every match for decades. No more hypocrisy." So I guess there is that acknowledgement that this sort of thing goes on at the moment. I think, we all see, for example, Stefanos Tsitsipas. There have been matches where he has certainly, I think, been in communication with his box. But I just feel like it depends maybe on what your definition of a coach is. And for me, a coach should be getting their player ready for the match. It shouldn't. The coach's sort of boundaries, I don't think, should evolve to a point that it's influencing during the match as well.
Yeah, I think, Kyrgios actually came out and said that, he very much disagrees with this coaching, and that, it doesn't really seem equitable, because if you've got like a high profile player who can afford like a super coach, like a Mouratoglou, they're coming on giving you all this info and advice, versus someone who can't afford a coach. Like, that's not really like at all a level playing field. I mean, when is tennis ever a level playing field? But it's one thing that you can at least make equal whilst the match is going on. And yeah, and I think obviously he was saying as well, it's tennis is one of the only sports where you kind of do have to figure out on your own once you're on that court, and that is one of the
it's what makes
beauty
tennis special
of it. Yeah, exactly. And the coach is designed to enable you up to that point, but yeah, when all is said and done, it's just you on that court. It's an individual sport. But I guess the other side is that coaches are coaching anyway, and it's kind of just this rule kind of legalizes what's already like sneakily happening and what is just going on generally. I guess we'll have to give it time and see how it influences things.
And I think, I'm curious to see the comparisons made between the fact that it is now happening on the men's side and on the women's side, and whether there's any similarities or differences there. It's going to be part of the US Open, the final Grand Slam of the year, coming up as well. So again, it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out, because I feel like some of the biggest kind of talking points have been around coaching. So having this in place, arguably, does it bring another sort of level of simplicity, particularly for umpires, so they're not having to worry about coaching from the point of view that it's illegal and I have to be on top of it and give warnings or whatever for it. Now that isn't the case, does it help them kind of just focus on the match itself? So I do think there is an argument to say that it's going to help umpires, and I think in the men's side at the moment, I feel like sometimes they need all the help they can get if they've got someone like a Nick Kyrgios on the court. But I think there's going to be inevitably people who are going to be for it. There are going to be people against it. But for me, I just think that it's an individual sport, and a coach, I think that they should just be. They can only do so much before it's over to the player. And for me, it's the locker room, and then you have your final talk, and then it's down to the player once they step onto the court.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm on the same side. My default is that you shouldn't really be doing all of this, but I'm willing to give it time and see how it goes. I mean, obviously, if there is any hindrance caused to the other player from coaching, that is still not allowed. So there are still penalties and fines for any abuse of the new rules, but it's going to be evaluated at the end of the season. So
I do think that it can be insightful for fans, and it could be quite interesting from a TV point of view to see and hopefully hear that discourse, really get that insight into kind of the interaction between a coach and a player during a match. I feel like we get that already when we see like Daniil Medvedev and Nick Kyrgios kind of shout at their boxes. But this feels like it could lead to a more constructive environment where fans are going to get real value, I think, from that interaction, versus at the moment when we just see players just sort of hurling abuse at their box, and it's just like a one-way dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think it's certainly going to be, it might cause some interesting debates. We'll have to see how we get on. There might be certain occasions that this comes up. So we'll be certainly discussing that if it does. Other news from the week, Joel. We've had Serena Williams announce she will carry on her comeback at the National Bank Open in Toronto, which will be next month. So she signed up to play the event, which is early August. And I assume she's going to play the US Open. This is a good warm-up event for that. And I think it's sensible to go into a slam, having played some sort of warm-up event, which, she only played the doubles, didn't she, at Eastbourne before Wimbledon. So I think she's learned already that she can't just kind of rock up without playing any singles matches maybe. So hopefully this will help her, and good for Canadian fans. They'll get to see her back in action. So we don't know what's happening beyond that, but she's playing Toronto and then the US Open, I guess, for now.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's a player who, no matter how many Grand Slams she's won and trophies she's won, I think what Wimbledon probably showed her is that she can't just turn up and expect to perform. I understand that she went into Wimbledon with no expectation, and I think that probably showed in terms of her her lead up to the event, playing doubles with Ons Jabeur in Eastbourne, and that was it. It's not the best preparation even for someone of Serena Williams' magnitude. So I think certainly this is a smart move. I don't know if they're going to be other kind of comeback events. It's interesting she's using her protected ranking, so this isn't going to be on a wild card. She's going to be using a protected ranking to come into this event, and we'll see how she gets on. I think the US Open is going to be, I think again it's going to be very, very open like Wimbledon, and I think perhaps that will motivate her and maybe give her that inspiration that she needs, and is maybe thinking like, ooh, maybe there is a chance for me here. But in order to maximize that chance, lead up events are certainly going to help.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing how she gets on. Come, I think the 8th of August is the Toronto tournament. So just in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure she's preparing hard for that. But we do have some events this week. We've got a mixed event out in Hamburg in Germany. This is a ATP 500 event and a WTA 250. Is this the first time that this event has been mixed, or am I kind of not remembering it as being a mixed event? Because I think it's great that it is mixed, but I don't remember it being mixed before.
No, all I can remember, Kim, is the absolutely shocking trophy that the male champion gets, which it's just like a yellow squiggle.
It's artistic, Joel. Modern art.
I swear we've had this argument before on the pod.
Yeah, I think Basilashvili won it last year, didn't he? And got a nice photo of him holding the artwork. But yeah, for the men's side of things, Carlos Alcaraz is the top seed. Rublev is the second seed. We've got Cerundolo, Bublik in the draw. So recent champions and finalists. Botic van der Zandschulp is there, PCB, Sebastian Baez. So yeah,
Feliciano Feliciano Lopez not there.
Oh, well, it's a clay event. He's gonna just want to maximize the grass. There isn't any more grass, is there? That is officially over, I think.
Yeah, it is over.
But no, so yeah, we've got that going on, and the women's side of things, Annette Kontaveit is the top seed, and Kasatkina is the second seed. Interesting to see if Bernarda Pera can have another week on the trot doing well. Krunic as well in the draw. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, looking at the women's draw and the men's, I can't see an out and out champion apart from Carlos Alcaraz, who I think probably is the favourite.
Yeah, I certainly would say Alcaraz is the top seed, and I think he goes in as the favourite. I think he's done well on the clay this season at the 500 level, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him go deep in the tournament. But he could come up against Baez in the second round, so not too easy. And he's not played since the grass, so again there's going to be that odd sort of transition back to what feels like a more natural surface for him, but again it could throw up some sort of obstacles for him to overcome. But he has a wild card in the first round, so hopefully he gets a bit more sort of time to just sort of get used to being back on the clay before potentially a second round match against Baez.
And we also have the Gstaad event in Switzerland, which I know every year we always say it's confusing because we have Bastad and Gstaad. We're like broken records. But Casper Ruud is top seed here. He'll be trying to defend his title from last year. Matteo Berrettini is back as well as a second seed. Hopefully he's all okay after having that COVID withdrawal at Wimbledon. Who else do we have? RBA,
Dominic Thiem,
Ramos Vinolas. Dominic Thiem. He's got Hugo Gaston in the first round. Yeah, hopefully Dominic Thiem can have I'd love to see him put a great week together and like get to the semis or the final.
Well, he's in a quite good part of the draw because obviously he beat RBA last week. If you can maybe come up and cause the upset, get Gaston, yeah, he's got, I feel like, an opportunity potentially there, to make further inroads and further strides and build on the momentum he got last week. So I think that looks quite encouraging for him. We also have for him finally Palermo in Italy, WTA 250. Lots of Italians and lots of Italians in the top half of this draw. Trevisan is the top seed. She could face, I mean, she's got Caroline Garcia in her quarter. Putintseva is the second seed. And we've got Sara Sorribes Tormo, Begu, Parisas Diaz. I mean, lots of kind of classic kind of clay quarters. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Are you feeling confident about Caroline Garcia?
The renaissance is well and truly going to happen fully this week. I mean, yeah, well, she already won a title, didn't she? So it could be two in the space of a month or so. She's got a really good shot at this one. I'm fully confident. Come on, Caro. But yeah, we'll be back next week to see what Caroline Garcia and co have been up to. I promise I will stop talking about her now.
I swear our tour catch-ups are literally just becoming like, what is Caroline Garcia doing on the tour this week?
Well, to be fair, it wasn't for a long time because she wasn't doing much. But now she is. So there we go. I've just got to make the most of it. But we haven't mentioned Fernando Verdasco this week. You'll be pleased to know.
That is very true.
That is very true. But yeah, we'll be back next Monday. But we do have some special things in the works, Joel, I believe. Yeah, until then.
Yes, listeners, we've got a few other episodes that have already been released and also coming up. We were lucky to go see the new John McEnroe documentary the other week, and I got a chance to sit down with the director Barney Douglas and composer Felix White in a film club episode. That episode is already up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure to give that a listen. We also excitingly are recording our next book club episode on Thursday. We're going to be speaking with Mike Dixon, the tennis correspondent for the Daily Mail, about his new book, Emma Raducanu, When Tennis Came Home. So any questions for Mike, let us know on social media or drop us an email. We'd love to hear them. And finally, we've got Chris, Tennis Weekly Chris. He was at Bastad, and if you just listen on to the end of this episode after the music, he's going to give us a little diary entry from his time there. So if you're ever thinking about going to Bastad or you just want to hear what it's like, make sure to listen to the complete end of the episode.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for being our eyes and ears on the ground out in Sweden.
He's in Hamburg. I think he's going to Hamburg as well this week.
Well, he's based in Copenhagen, right? So they're quite... Like Hamburg's pretty near, actually, so he can do all our European scouting for us.
Yes, and he can make a diary entry for us all the time.
Absolutely.
But yes, so we'll look forward to that one, and I'll look forward to hearing about Bastad as well. But listeners, I hope you've enjoyed listening to this latest catch up with Tennis Weekly. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action on the ATP and WTA tours on whatever device you listen to us on. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. You can also listen to us on the downloadtennis.com app. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And you can follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Tennis Weekly Pod. So do give us a like and a follow if you don't already. And let us know any questions, feedback, comments you may have for us. If you prefer, you can reach us via email as well, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website as well, www.tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next Monday at Tennis Weekly HQ for our next tour catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We will see you again soon.
Hello, this is Chris, and once again, Joel has asked me to do a little overview as to what it was like to attend the Nordea Open in Boston, which you might know as Bastad, but that's how you say it, I learned whilst I was there. For those of you who don't know, that is in Sweden. I'm based in Copenhagen, and it's just a short train ride, about 2.5 hours from Copenhagen, similar from Malmö and from Gothenburg. It's slightly longer. And it's on the west coast of Sweden. It's a ATP 250 and a WTA 125. And Båstad is a really nice summer vacation town in Sweden. So everyone who's there, pretty much population-wise, is there for the summer vacation. And in Scandinavia, people take their holiday all in one go, and they go to their summer houses. So it's full of summer houses, and that creates a really lovely vibe at the tennis, because the Nordea Open is kind of the biggest thing that happens there. So there are yachts, there are boats that are all in the port and in the harbour, and that population and the tourist population that's there really does make up the majority of the people who will be at the tennis. So people are there for a nice time, and it creates a lovely atmosphere. I bought my ticket quite last minute, and I managed to get a front row seat, so I cannot complain. But the seats are really reasonably priced. They want people in town to come to the matches. They want it to be full, and it was pretty jam-packed, even from the first doubles, which was the final. And that was a match where there were some people that I hadn't necessarily heard of before playing, in the form of David Vega Hernandez and Rafael Matos, who actually won the title, and they were playing against Simon Bolelli and Fabio Fognini. And I did not know that Fabio was 7 in the race at the moment, him and Bolelli in their doubles partnership, having picked up a title earlier this year and also a final in Sydney, I think. So they're on some good form. And true to Fabio's style, he really did not wake up. But when he did, we saw some glimpses of some great tennis. They probably should have won it. It was very edgy at the end, where I think the lesser-known pair of Hernandez Vega and Matos got very nervous, and they needed some help, which Fabio and Bolelli happily provided. But it's good to see that Fabio is having kind of a good double season with Bolelli. I know they won the 2015 Australian Open, I think, and that was a very entertaining match, going 6-4, 3-6, 13-11. If you're a Fabio fan, it was very painful, with all the match points saved, match points themselves, and then not being able to get over the line. But nevertheless, all you can hope for in a doubles final, that it was action-packed and super exciting and tight. The doubles was followed by the singles, which as soon as I texted Joel to say that I was coming to this, he immediately responded and said, "It looks like you'll see Casper Ruud." And I thought I'd be seeing Casper Ruud pick up the title, and he was eliminated by the older Cerundolo brother, and that was a big upset early in the tournament in the second round, because normally Casper likes to pick up these 250s, much to the annoyance of Nick Kyrgios. But it was an all-Argentinian affair between Francisco Cerundolo and Sebastian Baez, and it was a very good match. Again, there were some nerves at the start. It was great to see two clay courters really in their element, and when they did settle down, we had some great points towards the end of the first set. Again, lots of opportunities missed. I think in total there were 24 break points and only 4 were taken, so pretty cagey. But I was super impressed by Cerundolo's forehand especially, and his and the movement of Baez. He's a great mover, but didn't quite have the weapons on the day. But the forehand of Cerundolo really did do an awful lot of damage. And it's his first title, so he's now joining his younger brother, as an ATP title holder. So he was very pleased to win, and it was a great atmosphere. But it's a fantastic event, and I would recommend anyone to go. It's held in the grounds of very close to the grounds and within the grounds of a hotel. So it's kind of a tennis sort of resort in the form of Hotel Skansen, it's called, which is where I stayed, actually in the tennis pavilion. And so you're right amongst where the players are staying, which is, it's great to be up close to people, and all the officials are staying there. And it's quite a luxury sort of place. It's quite a bougie tournament as far as these things go. And if you're looking for a sort of a tennis tournament which is very easy, it's super kind of an easy way to see tennis up close, the players up close, and really kind of be right in there in the tournament as it's all happening, then I fully recommend it. I think it's a wonderful tournament to visit. You can see why the players like it so much, because it is phenomenal facilities. There is a second court as well as the main stadium court, which is also a lovely court, and a couple more that are a bit closer to the water. I would say, though, that the wind can be a challenge there. It was certainly very windy when I was there, and I think Rublev suffered in the wind, but the Argentinians managed to get the job done and handle it a lot better. So bring something that will keep out the wind, a windproof jacket or something, because even on a sunny day, you can get pretty chilly. And that's coming from someone who lives in Copenhagen where it's very windy. But overall, I would say it's a fantastic tournament. The vibe is people who are very keen to watch tennis. They're very engaged. It's a lovely tournament and a very easy one to attend if you can get yourself there. It couldn't be easier if you're staying at Hotel Skansen, which is where the tennis takes place. But yeah, couldn't recommend it more. Had an absolutely lovely time and might try and drag Joel there next year.